Okay, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to edit the images and go through them and apply filters. So at the moment, the application we've got looks like this. Okay, pretty basic. I can, at the moment, upload images. And once it's uploaded, I can change the rotation or flip the image. So going back to the code, let's just minimize these for the time being. Now, for this demonstration, we're going to need another library. So we're going to use NumPy. So that's another import you'll need to bring in at the top. Just to note, if you are using PyCharm and it's grayed out and you're wondering why, it's just because we haven't actually used this library yet. So it's just kind of informing us we've got an import that we haven't utilized. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an image array. And this is basically going to take all of the data from the image that we've loaded. Now, the array is going to look like a grid or a matrix. Okay, so a two-dimensional grid, and it will show data from our image. Now, at the moment, I've got the image loaded in a session state, so it's remembered between caches. So it actually caches the data. So that's why I've got this slightly unusual variable name here. And what this is going to do is it's going to take this data, and if you know more about images, images are made up of lots of pixels. Each of those pixels is represented by a series of numbers to describe what the pixel looks like. If we are talking about a JPEG, so a file like this or like this, then the images are going to be made up of three numbers. The first one will represent the amount of red, the amount of green, and then the amount of blue. The number, will range from 0 to 255, and you have to think of them like a light. So if I set red, green, and blue all to 0, we've turned off the red light, the green light, and the blue light, which will mean we will get black. If I set them all to 255, all maximum brightness, then that's going to produce the color white. And it gives us around, just over 16 million different color variations. So let me show you what that looks like. So at the moment, using the NumPy, we've taken the data from the image and we've turned it into an array, and this should put it to the screen. So if I rerun this, so here you can see some of the data coming through. This is telling me the very top pixel, so the one right up here in the top left-hand corner, is described as 183 red, 146 green, and 104 blue. So it's given it slightly higher red and greeny, which is giving us this kind of color that we're seeing up here. And then it goes through all of the data. Okay, and this is actually summarizing it a bit. These dots, it's not showing us everything. So let's look at it a different way. Let's look at the shape of the array. So what this now tells me is the amount of rows in the grid. So we've got 488 rows vertically on the y-axis. We've got 800 horizontally on the x-axis, and each one is represented by 3 colors. Now, if this is a PNG, this number will be 4 because it has red, green, blue, and then it has a 4th channel called the alpha channel. And that describes how transparent that pixel is. You probably know if you've worked with PNGs that they can have transparent backgrounds, and that's how they work. They've got an extra channel that you need to be aware of. Okay, but with this demonstration, we're just going to work with a standard JPEG. Okay, so to access that, I can access the rows with 0, the columns by 1, and then the amount of colors by 2. In terms of the shape, and that's going to help me because I want to loop through this, and what I'm going to try and do is change the first row of this picture. Now, just to make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to make the picture a bit bigger. So at the moment I had it set to 500 to increase the width of that. Okay, so we're going to go right across the top here and change the color. So we're going to cross, so I'm going to say for column, in range, the length, image, array shape, And here we're looking for the row, we're looking for the column, which is index 1. So we're going to loop 800 times right across the top. Okay, now I've got that, let's get the color back from the pixel we're at. So the first one will be the very top left-hand corner. So we need to go to our image. We want to say get pixel, and we have to pass it a tuple here. Now this goes by column then row. So the row is going to be static, the column is going to change, and the row is going to be 0 because we're going to go right across the top line. So we've got the color here back from it. And then we're going to apply a change to that color. So we're going to separate it out. So we're going to say the red equals data at position 0. So the first index will give us the red. The green will be at the second. And the blue will be at the third or second index. And what we're going to do to this at the moment is we're going to change the blue, and we're going to increase it by 100 pixels. Now there is a possibility that this could go over 255, but that won't really matter. Even if the number is set higher, the maximum value this can go to is 255, so it will just default back down again. Now we've taken the color out of the pixel, we've got access to the color, we separated the RGB, we've adjusted the blue and made the blue stronger than it was before, and now we've got to put it back into the image. So we're going to go back to our image here. Oh, sorry, session state. Our image. And we're going to use this put pixel. Now put pixel is going to expect similar to what we had before. So we're going to put it back in the same place. And then the next tuple we pass is the color that we want to put there. So we're going to pass the same R and G that was already there, but we're going to also push our adjusted B value. Now, once we've done that, we've got to then, because this would have actually changed the image, but it won't change it on the screen unless we actually change the image element. So just to go up here, and you can see here, this is where I set the image to begin with, and I gave it a reference called display. So I can use that here and say display, still an image, but now let's reload what's in our variable here. And we'll continue to set the width at what it was before. Okay. Right, so we've got an error here. Okay, so in object has no attribute length. Why did I didn't need to put length here. This is going to give me an integer straight away. This is going to give me the value of 800. I don't need the length. Let's run it again. Okay, now looking at that, I think it's very hard to see. I'm not sure I can see any change there. Why don't we make a bigger adjustment? So I'm going to turn the red off, the green off, and I'm going to set the blue to 255. I'm going to run that again. Right, now I can actually see it. Okay, so now the blue line has appeared across the top. So it was working, it was just the adjustment was so subtle that I couldn't pick it out on the image. Okay, so we do know that works. So what we're going to do is revert that back to what we had before. Okay. So we've changed one line at the top, but we've got this fixed value here, which is on the row. So now we want this to change as well. I'm going to have another loop. I'm going to go through the amount of rows, which I think, I remember, it's 400 and something. Okay, now we've got this here. We can replace the 0 here with our row. So now the row also updates. Now, just before I actually run it like this, I'm just going to take this out. I'm going to set this to 100 because I want you to be able to see the change first. But now we should be changing the first 100 rows of the image. Okay. Interestingly, we've still got this dark blue line across the top. And I think that's basically because it's keeping in memory what my changes I had before. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually clear the cache, rerun the program. There we go. That's looking better now. So from here, I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to put back in this here. So now it's going to go down every single row rather than just 100 of them. We're going to rerun that. Okay, so what you can see here is the filter was applied twice to this one, again, because I didn't clear the cache beforehand. But you can see down on this section of the photo, it's been applied correctly and we've got a blue filter. So I'm just going to clear the cache. Okay, run the app again. Now you see it does take a little time. We're going through quite a few different pixels here, so the processing for this is going to take quite a long time. So the bigger the image, obviously the longer that will take. And as you see, we've got a nice blue filter has been applied. So where do we go from here? Well, this at the moment is not great. It's a fixed value in our code, and it would be much nicer if the user could actually select these before applying the filter. So what I would recommend you do from here is go back to where we were with the docs. We're going to look at our API reference. We're going to look at our input widgets. And I mean, you can choose different ones. You could use a text input to do this, but I would think something like this, if we can see where it's been applied. Something like this here would work really nicely. You could have one for red, one for green, and one for blue, starting at 0, maximum 255. You set your red, your green, your blue, and then you press a button to apply the filter. So that's what I'd like you to try and do once you've got to this stage in the video. And good luck. I hope it works well.